We begin our adventure as a stowaway, far as I can tell, a handsome hooligan, and an awesome axe-wielding rider of the shiniest meat bicycle. Of course, the train ride doesn't go so well, and we end up escaping death to find ourselves stranded by the big bad Handsome Jack on one of the most dangerous planets in the universe. Pandora is filled to the brim with various guns, shields, and colorful characters with all manner of skills. My sweet boy Krieg, though, won't be using any of these. If you have one of the many different special editions of the game, you can start out with an item called the Contraband Skyrocket. It's a grenade mod that scales with your level. As far as I'm aware, it's the only item in the game that does. I've heard it be called amazing, I've heard it be called absolutely terrible. Today, I'm putting it to the test. Today, I ask the question, can you beat Borderlands 2 with only the Contraband Skyrocket? In case it needs to be clarified, there are a shit ton of ways to hurt enemies in this game. I will not be using melee, offensive shields, skills that do damage, guns of any variety, which includes turrets. I won't be running over or ramming anything with a vehicle. I won't even be allowed to jump on enemies to deal the whopping 2 damage that it does. While Krieg's action skill doesn't hurt anything directly, I also won't be activating it at any point through the run. Any violation will require an immediate reset of the area. I didn't kill anything with any of these methods, but I've played a lot of this game and muscle memory is strong, so I did find myself wanting to swing at some things. These moments were all, though, quickly addressed. While I'm not allowed to shoot or hit things, NPCs aren't me, and I won't be held accountable for their actions, so anything they do is fine. I also won't be taking the fall for any environmental damage, such as explosive barrels or enemies hurting themselves or others. Finally, all bonuses from my badass rank will be disabled for the run because I felt it would be more fair that way. Now we start off at level 1, which means I don't have access to a lot of things, one of those being grenades in general. This represents an issue that needs to be addressed immediately before I can get anywhere beyond the walking tutorial. What you're seeing at the moment is the Commander Lilith DLC. Say what you want about it, but I ended up having to see a lot of it, and by that I mean I didn't actually move beyond this area. But I was here a lot. Ignoring the story who's what's-its, there are enemies that are way the fuck over my level, and Mordecai is trying to help defend the place. My objective is to kill a bunch of them until I get a cutscene. Grenades can spawn here, but I can't, actually hurt any of these guys. But Morty can. And they're worth a lot of experience for the stage in the game. Enemies give less as your level eclipses theirs, but I won't ever really experience that with these guys. If you save and reload, you keep everything you got, but your quest progress is reset. So you can sort of just let him farm out your experience while you farm things like money and iridium. The latter of the two being the only method by which I can permanently increase my grenade capacity. The literal first actual enemy encounters proved challenging. I have a very limited number of throws, and it took several attempts to actually manage to kill the needed number to start the run. Remember, grenades don't spawn in this area, so I only get 3. Every failed attempt means I have to go back to a DLC area to restock. Luckily, the Skyrocket one-shots the first mini-boss of the game, because of course it fucking does. A mysterious guardian angel character helps us get through a door to the next puzzle. I need to clear this place out, and some containers now can drop the ammo I need, but it's a really low chance, and there are multiple waves of enemies. So I did my best to have the enemies fight amongst each other until only one side remained in Man vs. Beast. The stragglers were easy enough to clean up. I feel I should also address that you might see me holding guns from time to time. In several encounters, money is extremely important, and I need all that I can carry to sell later. For the uninitiated in the Skyrocket and its ways, it follows sort of an inverse throwing arc to most other grenades. It'll rocket toward the sky. After a certain amount of time, where I swear to god at fucking random, it'll detonate sending out a lot of smaller grenades, and those will detonate into a shower of sparks and fiery pain. It does some really respectable damage to most enemies, but aiming it can be a bit odd to get used to. You sort of want to aim it at the ground, but not too low or it'll bounce off to god knows where, because the physics that it runs on are a fucking mystery. What's not a mystery is how I'm going to handle the second mini-boss. This is where you're supposed to start seeing grenades as a thing, so there are tons to use here. I carefully aim the turret as to not hit any enemies behind the gate, and get to killing, like exploding a bunch of dudes in a narrow hallway. With ammo being so scarce though, engaging in combat is not good. So running past enemies is more or less mandatory at this stage. There are enemies that I do have to engage with, so I of course carefully waste my grenades like an idiot. Backtracking to get ammo is awkward when the enemies are still here. Careful route planning helped a lot in slipping by, but the AoE size and damage output of this thing is a godsend. Other times we get to see why people don't like this thing. It is both fast and very bouncy. It'll find any and every excuse to come right back at you. You'll notice that it didn't actually hit anything, because this game features a lot of invisible barriers and janky hitboxes that can and will fuck with your throws. It's not normally a big issue, but I only have 3 throws to my name, and every one of them is a potential suicide if I miss. I swear, this thing is homing, and it targets exclusively my sorry ass. Because it scales with you, surviving a single hit from it is almost entirely out of the question. I used an old speedrunning path to at least make my life a little less painful, and I'm on to the next mini-boss. Speaking of painful though, Captain Flynt is a bit unique in that he's not only resistant to fire, but he can buff himself to be even more durable. While he has this buff, he heals from fire damage. You know, my type of damage. He hardly takes any damage at all from grenades, and any mistimed throws will heal him for a lot more than they would otherwise do, so this was going to be nightmarish. Luckily for me, there's a vending machine next to the fight so I can restock my grenades for some cash. You can jump back up to it and throw grenades down to him. I didn't have enough money or damage, so I left to farm some more of both. I redid almost everything I did to get to Flynt, blew myself up because I'm bad at games, and... Oh, come on! He was almost dead! Fucking hell. While you can revive yourself by killing an enemy, you also can't throw grenades while down. Glad the game was balanced around being able to self-revive. The character Axton can get a skill to allow this, but Axton also just isn't good enough to do this run for reasons we're currently experiencing, and we'll get into more later. I played because I didn't want to waste ammo on this dude, so I brought him with us on our ship to the next location. I guess he died at sea though, because he was gone when we arrived. I saw something green, and everything inside me wanted to kill it. So I reloaded, and yes, I am counting that as against the rules. After running around a lot, I get to Sanctuary for what is definitely the first time ever. Never been here before? Nope, not even once.
Let me get the gate for you.
Thank you. Are you going to get it? I can press it if you don't want to. It's no trouble, really. Oh, thanks, I suppose. The town mechanic Scooter wants some help in making the place fly to escape the big bad organization of Hyperion since Roland has been kidnapped. And that's apparently their whole plan. You could just as easily shoot the flying sanctuary as the stationary one, really, so I'm not sure whose idea that was. Also, the city can't actually fly at the moment, so that was fruitful. Plot holes aside, I now have access to the black market, where I buy as many grenade capacity upgrades as I can afford. Life just got a lot easier. Back to Roland's situation, he's the leader on these parts. And this group will be my family from here on, so gotta go save him from the Firehawk. Given that I wasn't doing side quests, the level difference got a lot tighter, and some of the enemies around in these parts are resistant to fire. They're still made of flesh though, so it went surprisingly well. The Firehawk, who allegedly kidnapped Roland, is actually his sort of ex-girlfriend Lilith. She actually just wanted to see him, and in an unrelated event, he was apparently kidnapped by a group of bandits. This section has you fighting side by side with her, which is maybe an overstatement. I helped you back up. Could you lend a hand? Yeah, didn't think so. Okay, bye. Afterwards, she fails to teleport you to where her not-boyfriend is. Why she doesn't go there herself, I have no idea. Allegedly to, quote, keep the city in one piece, but it seems like the city was doing absolutely fine. Also, Sanctuary is in no way, shape, or form big enough to constitute a city. I spend a shit ton of in-game hours driving to a place to get a new kind of car. To do this, I need to blow up enemy vehicles. This was shockingly easy. I'd essentially drive near their cars, hop out, toss some shit, and did this until I eventually had all that I needed. After going through all of this, I get a car that I will use literally only this one time, and only to open a gate. The game introduces a mini-boss that gets its own cutscene for some reason, and he mostly just serves as a method by which to farm XP. If you enter the stronghold and then leave it, you can kill him, then reload your save. It'll put you right back next to him for an easy time killing. Good for your level and your wallet. After a lot of farming, I make my way into the place proper. Most of this area is really tightly enclosed, and might I point out the warning that my only weapon comes with. Safety messages prepare to be ignored! Well, shit. Granted, I threw this too low, but what the fuck was that? Why did it not bounce instead? Why does it always choose to blow up in my face instead of absolutely anything else? By this point in the game, I have an item called a class mod that gives me a slightly higher grenade capacity, and a skill that gives enemies killed by grenades an increased chance to drop grenades. This skill is vital to the continued health of this run. It's the sole reason that Axton just doesn't compare. The ability to restock grenades is just too powerful. I managed to rescue Roland, except for the part where I didn't. But it's okay, I had to fight my way through hell, but I saved him. If we ignore the part where I didn't save him. Yeah, so elements are important in this game. I deal fire damage with the Skyrocket. It's great against flesh, but not so much against shields or armor. Hyperion robots are all armored, so they're pretty dang resistant, only beat out by the absurd damage on my grenades. The thing that took Roland, though, has a shield that I can barely scratch, and armor underneath. So there was no world in which I was rescuing him in time. This area was frustrating. Using my boost at full speed, I couldn't outrun these cars to get to my destination without hitting them, and they take damage at the slightest bump, so I reset here a good few times before finding out the long way around is safer. When I managed to get there, I found out that for some reason, changing nothing about my build didn't make me any more prepared to handle this fucker. So I ended up having to admit defeat here, and go back to farm some more experience. Its shields didn't come back very quickly, so I tried to only throw grenades after it spawned in enemies in hopes that I could recover some from kills. The problem being that it can spawn in exploders and badass loaders, which both take multiple grenades to kill, meaning I was looking at a net loss. The damage I was doing even after farming was pitiful. Things were going alright though, until things started spawning in behind me. After some panic and stabilization, I was met with the biggest recurring issue of this run. My own dumbass chucking things where they don't belong. After way more struggling than should have ever occurred, though, it goes down, and I rescue Roland. It's a good thing that's the only constructor I'll ever have to deal with, though, right? Right? I go to wake up Mordecai to meet him for the first time ever. Never seen this man before in my life. To do so, I need to burn 3 things at once, which was surprisingly easy. I figured the grenades would kill all of them at once, potentially making this impossible, but it can apparently break the fire melons by going through it, which is
close enough.
I then meet one of the most beloved characters in the franchise who has me go blow some things up to blow up a train, so I can blow up some robots in my way, so I can blow up a cyborg that's after them. In retrospect, explosives were almost my sole solution to every problem in this run. Yeah, it's fitting, I suppose. I honestly thought the Wilhelm fight was going to be a lot harder than it was, but he was nice enough to spawn in flying ammo cases for me, and he wasn't all that resistant to being burned alive. So, easy boss is easy. Turns out the power core we got from Wilhelm actually helped the treacherous angel lower our defenses. We get shot at with a lot of mortars, but if Jack knew that the shields were going down, why such a pitiful strike? Why not aim more our way if it was so easy? Just to gloat? I mean, I guess, but what if we got away and wasted his one easy chance at killing us? That's a terrible plan. In a bid to escape, they teleport the now flying city to safety. It certainly isn't easy, but Jack is led to believe that they can kinda do this whenever. But Jack knows more about sirens than most people, so wouldn't he know she really can't do that forever? He's rich as fuck, why not just throw money at the problem until it's blown up? You could easily take care of one of the only real threats to you with a bit of persistence, instead of letting us cause billions in property damage to every planet-side installation you have. Like, she has to sleep sometime, right? Just keep shooting. But what do I know? I'm just a stupid bandit. Angel privately tells me that she's still on my side, though, and wants to help me find my friends. I don't trust her, which I feel justified in, as she burns me alive! The nerve on her! Gets a bunch of people killed, tells me she'll help, and then attacks me. The next couple areas went by pretty smoothly. The game wanted me to fight another constructor, but you can also run right by, so that is exactly what I'm going to do. Afterwards, I had the single easiest experience with the gluttonous thresher that I can remember ever having. To get back to my friends, I need a new fast travel station, one sent by Angel, the person that betrayed me. I could just as easily be fast traveled into the heart of a volcano and die instantly. Alternatively, you're giving an open door into the one safe place for all of my friends and found family. This somehow doesn't represent a security risk that I should consider, and instead fight a shit ton of loaders to protect the beacon that is directing the delivery here. I admittedly died a handful of times here because I'm bad at games, but defending it is more of a suggestion. I don't think there's a limit on how many times you can repair it, so you basically just need to kill things until you can carry on. Not a big deal. Even the constructor went by relatively easily due to the ammo machine next to the combat area. I managed to make it back safely though, and this somehow never bites me in the ass. In fact, she informs us of how to proceed. Of course, following the rule of 3. First, I need to get an upgrade for Claptrap to get me through a death wall. I have to get the upgrade from a place where Hyperion has been conducting experiments on people and animals. To get that, though, I have to save Mordecai's pet and closest friend, Bloodwing. This section has you damage, but not break, 3 loaders to get in. You can alternatively just kill loaders that continuously spawn in until the door just opens. But I didn't have to. I'm mostly pointing this out because I genuinely didn't think I was going to be able to manage it, but it was both fast and easy. I think I just got lucky. I ran through the majority of the area because I've spent way too much time here on other characters farming items. The super badass loader in the midpoint went by weirdly easily. I managed to find Bloodwing post-modification, and now both her and I are the results of horrific and unethical experiments. She's elementally focused and switches between them for different phases of the fight. Because she's elemental though, she's extremely resistant to fire. My only source of damage. This fight is going to be long one way or the other. Getting through just her first phase took around 20 minutes per attempt. Her later phases are less resistant, but not by much. My only source of grenades through the fight are the enemies that spawn in on the other side of the arena. So I essentially just had to wait for a while to hear a group spawn before getting to kill them, and hope that I get back the grenade that I threw and more to throw at the boss. Mordecai sends health your way pretty often, so healing was never really an issue. This game has health gating, which means you can't be one shot from half health or more. Unless you're on fire. Or you deal damage to yourself. Or, God forbid, both. So if you're using a grenade that is infamous for bouncing back at you and also commonly setting you ablaze, yeah, healing was never an issue. Being one shot was a constant threat for a fight that, again, one phase took 20 minutes. I stopped partway through to farm out some XP in the Caustic Caverns because throwing what little sanity I desperately cling to with this bird was proving ill-advised for my declining health. She's deceptively fast. When on the ground especially, she can move really quickly in your direction, and her wings are fucking huge. At any moment, she can start moving and or spread her wings. Keeping in mind that timing, distance, and angle for the Skyrocket are incredibly delicate, if she twitches a single feather, you go from having spent half an hour farming grenades all the way back to square one. She can knock the grenade back at you like no other. There was legitimately not a single harder boss that I had to contend with. Now this game has a lot of bugs. One of which is that enemy pathfinding can't really figure out how to track you properly if you constantly jump. It's one of the only ways to actually avoid some of her attacks. She won't know where you are or what to do, so she'll just sort of sit in place. If you screw up the timing even slightly though, you risk her breaking out of it and killing you instantly. When she starts doing her breath weapons, she's at her most vulnerable. And by that I mean she's the most rooted in place. But only while in the air. Never throw anything her way when she's on the ground. It's a fucking death sentence. It won't always kill you, but this fight is a marathon, not a sprint. And remember, any mistake is almost definitely lethal. So playing carefully was a must, despite outleveling her by a significant margin. She eventually transitioned to shock, corrosive, and then finally, mercifully, went down. Also, Mordecai's closest friend dies, so that's fun. I delivered the claptrap upgrade, and I know not everyone likes this robot. I myself have mixed feelings, but I think this may have been the first time I've ever had to walk away from his crisp high five. I was ready for a challenge, but not like this. I wasn't emotionally prepared for this. I pretty much just ran to the next objective, and for the initiation into the Slab King's group, I have to fight a bunch of fleshy enemies that are all really closely packed together. Oh no, how horrible. It's the last playable character from the first game, Brick. Nice guy for the most part. Hyperion attacks us again, and we blow up some loaders. Good times, had by all. For the last hurdle, I have to get a voice and biometric modulator to sound like Jack. I get the device necessary for one of his body doubles, which is technically a mini-boss, but yeah, that's not usually very hard, but holy shit, that was easy. It apparently needs to be calibrated with clips of his voice, but you can basically just sprint around between the different objectives here. So this was really nice when compared to the Bloodwing fight. We launch an assault on the Hyperion location holding Jack's daughter. Why he's keeping her on this planet of all fucking places, I have no idea. Yeah, it would be hard to bring her resources from the surface, but if he actually loved her, he'd want her away from the most dangerous planet available. Further credence to the fact that he never did care. I died many times here to a mandatory constructor fight. It was so bad that I ended up heading back to respec my skills. I also now have a class mod boosting the chance that my enemies drop grenades, so this is now as high as it will ever be. After a lot of doing, it goes down, and I'm able to get to a gate. This was an issue. As far as I can tell, one that I can't surmount. I am required to break the turrets to get in, but they're immune to the Skyrocket. I even loaded up a much higher level character to try the same, and I just couldn't do literally any damage to them at all. So unfortunately, that's where the run ends. I don't personally enjoy leaving things unfinished though, so what if this gate wasn't here? What about the rest of the game? What if we were to ask a different question instead to make the run even just a bit more viable? Can you beat Borderlands 2 with only grenades? Using a random grenade that I picked up on my way here, I'm able to deal with the turrets without any real issues. I then immediately switched back to the Skyrocket because I'm gonna see this through, damn it! Through the gates are a badass constructor. I can't really do much damage to it though, and I don't stand a chance at killing the things it spawns. But I refuse. I absolutely refuse to be beaten by this shitty-ass 3D printing, missile-launching, stereotypically robot-talking, three-legged motherfucker! Its nukes deal a shit ton of damage. It even deals some to itself. It can't hit me under here, so if you're about to ask whether or not I sat my unhappy ass under this awning to protect myself from a shit ton of nuclear missiles until it shot itself to death so I could proceed, then yes, that is exactly what I did. And by God did this shit take for fucking ever. After busting some turrets, I'm attacked by
the greatest defense bot ever built.
Are you sure about that? Because I'm not so sure about that. I give it maybe 1.5 stars at most. Out of 100. Did you not see what I went through just to get here, Jack? Turns out, Angel is one of the 6 living sirens, and she's being used to charge the Vault Key to unleash an ancient alien power on the world and eventually the universe. To stop him, she reasons that I need to kill her by way of destroying the pipes that he has her hooked up to in an effort to fulfill his goal. But even when she's actively being attacked, we get this little interaction. He's more concerned about her using the word shit than he is about himself being a massive piece of it. Her life is at risk, and that's your worry? The turrets here can be blown up normally. Why these ones and not the other ones, I have no fucking idea. But I kill loaders as Roland disables the shields on the pipes until he eventually can't. Lilith shows up, despite being told,
"No matter what happens, do not allow Lilith into my chambers."
And we murder his daughter at her request. Jack appears behind Roland to shoot and kill him in one hit. How that wasn't deflected by a shield, we'll never know. Lilith is captured, hence being told to stay out, and now we're down 2 friends, and Jack only really lost a pawn. Smooth moves, guys. Also, why can't the player character do literally anything in the scene? There's nothing stopping them beyond plot convenience. I go all the way to one location to be told I need to go to another location, so that I can get to a third location. And we're officially into my least favorite part of most playthroughs. While many sections of the game exist because it's a video game, this is the one that just feels the worst. Once again, I blow up a lot of fleshy targets in a confined space. I need to get some more explosives from the top of this place, but I can only get there by first going to a different part of this place to blow up a different thing, so I can go back to the elevator, so I can get to the top, so I can fight some flying enemies that blow up like a bunch of fucks, so I can go back to the other place to lower a bridge, so I can get to a different location, so I can open a pipe to travel to a different location, but to open that pipe, I need to turn 2 valves each at 3 locations. So I can run a car into the pipe, grenades don't work in general, has to be a car, so I can go forward and find a map, so I can find the next location that I'm supposed to go. Fuck, I hate this part. Who signed off on this? Anyways, this part has you attacked by a giant loader-like enemy named Saturn. I essentially just ran by it, then there's a constructor, which I also ran by. There are then 2 more constructors, which I ignored while I downloaded the map data. We have the location of the vault though, and can begin the final assault. I fight my way through even more loaders. I hit level 31, which means I now have access to one of the strongest abilities in any one of Krieg's 3 skill trees. The tree that I'm mostly spec'd into allows enemies to blow up when killed, doing a shit ton of damage, and overall making combat a comparative breeze. But enemies aren't skyrockets, and they certainly aren't grenades, so I can't use it. I instead opted to get a little bit of healing when killing enemies. It was nice to have. Not massively impactful, but nice. Bowl and power loaders are a pain in my ass, but once you get further into the area, you have Brick to accompany you for a while. I ended up having to reset after a head bounce, but afterwards I was able to carry on. I, bravely fought by his side. I assisted in our forward progress. Okay, I just really didn't want to spend any more time here than I had to. I didn't want to. My courage was all for naught, though, as they ended up in the same drop barge before... Well, that could have gone better. I'm sure they're fine. Once through, there's an optional constructor, a bullshit invisible wall, and a super badass loader that I had to kill to get by with my torso in one piece. After these is, well, a bit of a roadblock for me. I tried just running by over and over again, and I nearly made it a couple of times. I ended up slowly killing off every enemy except the constructor before having my barely successful attempt to sprint by. Because again, I didn't want to fight that, and you can't make me. This was probably the hardest Handsome Jack fight I've ever had. I didn't even know he could spawn so many clones. Despite his huge shield though, I was able to deplete it while killing them because my AoE is huge, and once it went down, soon too did he. Lilith notifies Jack that he's stalled long enough to bring in the warrior. Final boss time. Let's go. No, that's not what I meant. I don't want to go with you. Ah, fuck. I mean, let's go over to the side of the arena. It can't really do much to you here. You can spawn in ammo at this machine right here. Some enemies will also spawn in from time to time, but I can one-shot them. And they give 1 or more grenades back every time at this point. If you're lucky, you can do even better than a one-shot. So while I don't do much damage to the warrior, this was really easy. Time consuming as heck, but easy. Realistically still less time consuming than Bloodwing, but I'm still just upset. Don't mind me. Once it goes down, I hit it with the biggest grenade in my arsenal from space. Because this was scripted and I have to. And just one last time, I throw a grenade to end out the game. With Jack dead, and with us still here to build back up, we now have a map to a bunch of more vaults. So, you know, Borderlands 3. Oh, see? I told you they were fine. But from level 1 to 32, I beat Borderlands 2 with only grenades. And I almost did it with only the Contraband Skyrocket. What the fuck were those turrets made of? Salts aside though, I hope you enjoyed your time here. You probably know how to use social media, and I hope that means I'll get to hear your thoughts now and on any future outings. Until then, remember to stay safe, spread some kindness in the world, and hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.